Hi, I'm Stephen Hand from Archery Supplies. Today we're here to look at the TruFire Smoke release aid. Now the Smoke comes in a couple of models. This is the fold-back model. This is the most expensive of the two. Now the first thing I'm going to say about the TruFire packaging is you can't open it because it's all sealed, which makes it a real pain for customers wanting to say how does this thing work when they walk into a shop? How does it feel? How does it compare to the other release aids? Now the TruFire Smoke sells for about $70 Australian, and it replaces the Hurricane in the lineup. So let me open this. And I think all release aid companies should have boxes that can be physically opened so customers can physically have a feel inside. Now there are some instructions down the bottom there, but we won't bother with that. There's some instructions on the back. Okay, so this is the TruFire. This is a Smoke. It's got a small head. Now, to operate the trigger, you can see how far it appears I've got to move this before it operates, and it closes. So with the TruFire Patriot, which is the most popular TruFire release aids, you have to physically close this. You have to push this trigger up. With the more expensive Smoke model, you don't. So it's pulled down to open and release to close. Now it's got a fold-back design. Now the concept of a fold-back design is you can fold this out the way of your wrist like that. So this is a buckle design. It's like a sort of a suede, it's like a suede kind of finish. It's soft. So let's just try this on. There's heaps of adjustment. I prefer buckles over a Velcro finish, and that's the basis of a fold-back design, so it's out the way of your hand. Whether you're a fan of the fold-back or not, that's up to you. I don't know if I particularly am a fan of it. It's definitely easy to get it out. Now adjustment. You can see by screwing this release aid, it extends the head. It extends the length here. You got a little screw on the side there to lock it in place. So when you're setting up a release aid, go close to the target, not at 18 like I'm doing here. I'm just going to extend this a little bit. Now it's hard to know, you want the trigger away from your face, so this away from your face when you pull it back. Now I generally shoot thumb release aids or handheld release aids. A wrist release aid like this is the most common for hunting. They tend to be cheaper than a handheld release aid, and just simple for recreational archers. Now when you draw the release aid back, basically grip it like so, and the finger is behind the trigger. If the finger's behind the trigger, you cannot punch yourself in the mouth. If you pull it back without an arrow on the bow, which I never recommend, make sure your finger's behind it, because if you pull it back like that and give it to your mate, he'll punch that trigger and basically dry fire your bow. I see it once a week. So let's try this out and see how it feels. Now, like I said, the TruFire Patriot retails for about $40, and this is $70. So this competes against the TruBall Stinger, which has a very similar operation. So it pulls down to and it closes. So I really want to feel my finger over the trigger like so. To me, the trigger felt like it was there, so I'm going to actually shorten this down. So I'm just going to spin it in. It's nice and easy to adjust. And then we're going to shoot another one. Now with a handheld versus a wrist release, I find with a handheld release aid, I lock it into my face more than a wrist. There's no reason why you can't shoot a wrist release accurately. I have no idea where they're going. I assume they're hitting the target. Now I'm still going to move that in further because I really want my finger to be over that trigger. Now there are people at state, national, world championships shooting wrist. It's just not the common. The common thing is a handheld release aid, but for recreational and hunters, wrist release aids are more than common. They're the most common release aid. This knock doesn't feel good. If ever you had that knock that feels loose, you're probably best not to shoot it. I'm finding this quite nice. You can see how close my finger is to the jaw. I think on the true ball stinger you'll find the jaws are further forward, and that's basically going to move your hand back further. The true ball stinger, which is the closest to this release aid, has got, instead of it like a suede finish, it's like a leather finish. Now you're going to ask, what's the difference between a $70 release aid and let's say the $150, the top of the line TruFire release aid, which I've shot, which is called the TruFire Hardcore or the chicken wing. The trigger's a little bit finer on those release aids, so they activate a little bit quicker. More like the thumb release aids you're used to shooting. There's nothing wrong with this. You can shoot fine with this. It's just a little bit finer, so they charge you more. The wrist strap's a little bit nicer. I'm still finding that's down a little bit. Now I'm going to look there, see my wrist. So I'm going to actually make this strap a little bit tighter on my wrist. And see if that helps, because I feel like my finger's still short on that trigger, and that's one reason I prefer the buckle release aid over a Velcro, so I can get it just so I can repeat the same shot time and time again. Now I don't know where the arrows are going down the other end. I'm not going to make excuses, but the sun's in my scope and I'm having trouble seeing. I find with the wrist, I find it's pulling on my wrist a lot. Obviously a wrist release aid, so that's why I prefer the grip in it. But I mean, that's going to get down to your personal feel of what you like the feel of. And this is the last shot. So I find the TruFire Smoke, I find the trigger very nice. It's very easy to use. For $70, it's very good value, I find. There are cheaper release aids like the Patriot and the TruFire Patriot, and there's Chinese wrist releases. In my opinion, even let's say the Chinese ones are $30 or even $25, they are not of this quality of the Smoke. at $70. I think the Stinger, the True Ball Stinger, would be something you'd try and compare to the Smoke. This is more than adequate to shoot. Let's go down and see how those groups are. I'll see if it's better or worse than what I shoot with a normal wrist release. Okay, so I'm up here at the target. Now the first thing you notice, I didn't adjust my sights for this. I shot the thumb release aid last night. I'm shooting the wrist release aid this morning. My groups with this are slightly to this side, which would suggest I'm not going into my face quite as tight. So I'm out just a little bit. The group, I've got some very good arrows there. Look, it's not bad. I was having real trouble seeing the scope with the sun. The sun's straight in the scope. Look, I'm pretty happy with that group. That's pretty good. It's actually a lot better than I thought it would be. So the whole difference between a $200, $300, $400 release aid and a $70 release aid in your actual scores, you're going to find is very minor. The more expensive release aid is just going to feel a little bit better, whether it be the strap or the trigger mechanism, or a little bit more comfortable. But the TruFire Smoke, I liked it, and as a budget release aid, I think it's very good. The adjustability is easy. I think the grey looks a little bit cheap. It looks like plastic. It's clearly steel. It's clearly an alloy, but it kind of looks cheap. Adjustability, there's a little Allen key in there inside the trigger, which you move in or out to adjust the tension on the trigger. Now with these types of release aids, you cannot adjust the tension and the travel. It's just you're adjusting one. On the more expensive release aids, you can adjust tension and travel. So tension is the amount of pressure required to set the trigger off, and the travel is how far it's got to move. On these, all you can adjust is basically how far it moves before it sets it off. So you pay extra for the more expensive ones. The most expensive wrist release aid is the True Ball Execute, which I think is priced around $350, which does have both those features, which is a sear mechanism, which is like the thumb handheld release aids. But for the price and for recreational archers, you definitely do not need those things, and this shoots absolutely fine. Now if I was buying a TruFire Patriot, I would definitely look at this at an extra $30 as an upgrade. So I think the buckles and the ability where it closes is a little bit better. The jaws are a little bit smaller. I think for $30, those features alone, the adjustability, it's more than enough to justify the extra $30, let alone whether you want the fold back or not. I think the fold back's an extra $10, so I think it might be $60 or $65 for the non-fold back version. So I'm Stephen Hand from Archery Supplies, and the more you shoot, the better you shoot. Thanks for watching. Bye.